Welcome back to Mr. Shadow's Stories, where the darkness speaks and nightmares come alive. I'm Mr. Shadows, and tonight I'm pulling back the curtain on a world most people never see. The terrifying reality of those who work when everyone else sleeps. Lock your doors, turn off the lights, and prepare yourself for stories that will make you grateful you don't work the night shift. Story 1: The Package That Screamed. Marcus had been working the night shift at the Central Postal Distribution Center in Pittsburgh for 3 years. He'd seen it all, or so he thought. Injured animals trapped in packages, mysterious liquids leaking from overseas parcels, even the occasional forgotten birthday cake rotting in a forgotten corner. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for what happened on that October night in 2019. The distribution center was a massive warehouse, easily the size of 3 football fields. During the day, it buzzed with hundreds of workers sorting millions of pieces of mail. But at night, Marcus was only one of 5 people responsible for the entire facility. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting long shadows between the endless rows of sorting machines and conveyor belts. It was 2:47 a.m. when Marcus heard it, a sound that made his blood run cold. It was coming from the unprocessed freight section, a muffled thumping accompanied by what sounded like scratching. At first, he thought maybe an animal had gotten trapped in one of the delivery trucks. It happened occasionally: cats, raccoons, even the odd possum seeking warmth. But as Marcus approached the source of the noise, he realized this was different. The sound was coming from inside a large package, approximately 3 feet by 3 feet, marked as priority overnight shipping. The shipping label showed it was being sent from a residence in rural West Virginia to an address in Ohio. Marcus stood there frozen as the thumping grew more violent. Then he heard it, a sound that still haunts him to this day. A voice, muffled, desperate, screaming from inside the box. "Help me! Please, someone help me!" Marcus's hands trembled as he grabbed his box cutter. Protocol demanded he call his supervisor first, but instinct took over. The screaming was getting weaker. Someone was running out of air. He slashed through the packing tape and tore open the cardboard. Inside, curled in a fetal position, was a teenage girl, maybe 16 years old. Her wrists were bound with zip ties, her mouth covered with duct tape. Her eyes were wide with terror, tears streaming down her face. She'd managed to work the tape loose enough to scream, but she was clearly exhausted, probably oxygen deprived. Marcus immediately called 911 while his co-worker Sarah helped free the girl. The police arrived within minutes. As they later pieced together, the girl had been abducted by her stepfather 3 days earlier after she threatened to report him for abuse. He drugged her, bound her, and shipped her to an abandoned property he owned in Ohio, planning to deal with her later. The sick bastard had poked air holes in the box, just enough to keep her alive during transit. The girl survived, but barely. Another hour, the doctors said, and she would have suffocated. Marcus saved her life, but the experience changed him forever. Now, every time he hears a strange noise coming from a package, his heart races. He started carrying a better knife, one that could cut through packaging faster. He learned to trust his instincts, even when something seemed impossible. He also keeps a bottle of water near him at all times, because he knows now that sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't supernatural. They're human, and they're using the very systems we trust every day to commit unspeakable acts. Marcus still works the night shift. When people ask him why he doesn't switch to days, he says it simply: someone needs to be there. Someone needs to listen. Story 2. The Visitor at Dock 7. Jennifer worked at a regional postal facility in rural Maine, a building that sat isolated at the end of a 2-mile access road surrounded by dense forest. The night shift was usually quiet, just her and 2 other workers processing the day's overflow and preparing for the morning routes. The building had 12 loading docks, but at night only Dock 7 was ever used for the late truck arrivals. It was a February night, the kind where the cold seeps into your bones no matter how many layers you wear. Jennifer was doing her routine check of the loading docks around 1:30 a.m. when she noticed something odd. The security camera for Dock 7 was flickering, showing nothing but static. This wasn't entirely unusual. The cameras were old and winter weather sometimes interfered with the signals, but something made her uneasy. She radioed Tom, the facility supervisor, and told him she was going to check it out in person. The walk from the main sorting area to Dock 7 took her through a long, dimly lit corridor. Her footsteps echoed off the concrete walls. When she reached the dock, everything seemed normal at first. The rolling door was closed and locked. No truck was scheduled until 6 a.m. Then she saw him. A man was standing outside the dock, visible through the small window in the personnel door. He was completely motionless, facing the building, his breath creating small clouds in the freezing air. He wore no coat, just a thin flannel shirt and jeans. His hands hung at his sides. Jennifer's first thought was that someone needed help, maybe a stranded motorist or someone who'd had car trouble on the isolated road. She opened the door a crack. "Can I help you?" she called out. The man didn't respond, didn't move, just stood there staring at the building with an expression Jennifer would later describe as hungry. A chill that had nothing to do with the weather ran down her spine. Something was very, very wrong. She closed the door and locked it, and then immediately radioed Tom. "There's a man outside Dock 7. He's just standing there, not moving, not responding." Tom told her to stay away from the dock and that he was calling the police. The nearest station was 20 minutes away. Jennifer returned to the main area, but she couldn't shake the image of that man's face. She pulled up the security footage on the main monitor, cycling through the cameras. Docks 1 through 6 showed nothing unusual. Docks 8 through 12 the same, but Dock 7 was still just static. 10 minutes passed. Jennifer kept glancing at the monitor, hoping to see police lights. Tom had joined her now, and they waited together in tense silence. Then the lights went out. Not just the lights, everything. The sorting machines stopped humming. The computers went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. "The generator should kick in any second," Tom muttered, but Jennifer could hear the uncertainty in his voice. That's when they heard it, the sound of one of the dock doors opening. The mechanical grinding echoed through the entire facility, but they...
"Tom?" Jennifer whispered. He turned to her slowly. "He's gone. Whoever he was, he's gone. But Jennifer, look at this." Tom pointed his flashlight at the ground just outside the dock. In the fresh snow that had started falling, there were footprints, but they didn't lead away from the building. They just stopped right at the edge of the dock, as if the person had simply vanished into thin air. The police arrived 15 minutes later. They searched the entire area, but found no one. The power had come back on its own about 10 minutes after it went out. The security footage for Dock 7 was corrupted, completely erased. But the most disturbing detail came from the timestamp on the other cameras. The man had been standing outside Dock 7 for over 3 hours before Jennifer spotted him. 3 hours in sub-zero temperatures, wearing just a shirt without moving an inch. Jennifer transferred to the day shift the following week. She still works at the same facility, but she refuses to go near Dock 7, even in broad daylight. And she's not alone. Every worker who's been there long enough knows the unspoken rule. Dock 7 is different. Dock 7 is wrong. Some nights, when the winter wind howls and the building settles, workers report seeing condensation form on the inside of Dock 7's window, the kind that happens when someone's breathing on the glass from outside. But when they look, there's never anyone there.
Story 3. The Letters to the Dead. Robert worked at a small-town post office in Oregon, handling the night shift sorting for rural routes. The job was usually monotonous, separating mail, organizing packages, and preparing the routes for the morning carriers. He liked the quiet, the solitude. It gave him time to think, to listen to podcasts, to exist in his own world. That changed when he started noticing the letters. They began appearing about 6 months into his employment. Always the same handwriting, an elegant, old-fashioned script written in black ink. Always addressed to the same street, Willow Creek Road. Always to different house numbers. What made them unusual was that Willow Creek Road didn't exist. Robert had been doing this job long enough to know every street in his delivery area. He'd checked the mapping system, asked the veteran carriers. No one had heard of Willow Creek Road. The protocol for undeliverable mail was simple. Mark it as return to sender or address unknown and send it back. But these letters had no return address, so they went into the dead letter pile, waiting to be opened and investigated by the regional center. Except they never made it there. Every letter Robert put in the dead letter bin would be gone by morning. He asked his coworkers about it. Had someone been sending them along? But everyone denied touching them. Robert decided to open one. He waited until he was alone in the facility, around 3 a.m. on a Wednesday. He chose a letter addressed to 1847 Willow Creek Road and carefully slid his letter opener under the seal. Inside was a single page, handwritten in the same elegant script as the address. Dearest Elizabeth, I hope this letter finds you in better spirits than my last. The children miss you terribly. Little Thomas asks every day when you'll come home. I tell him you're resting, that you need time, but we all know the truth, don't we? The dead don't rest in this town. They wait, they watch, they remember. Come back to us, Elizabeth, please, before you forget who you were. Forever yours, William. Robert felt a chill creep up his spine. The letter was dated March 15th, 1847. He told himself it was a prank, some historical reenactor or creative writer using the Postal Service for their weird project. But something nagged at him. He pulled out his phone and did some research. What he found made his blood run cold. In 1847, the town had a different name, Willow Creek. It had been renamed in 1893 after a devastating flood wiped out most of the original settlement.
The few survivors rebuilt on higher ground and changed the name, trying to leave the tragedy behind. According to historical records, there had been Willow Creek Road, and at 1847 lived a family named Morrison. William Morrison, his wife Elizabeth, and their 5 children. Elizabeth had died during the flood, along with 3 of the children. William and the 2 surviving children had died 2 years later in a house fire that locals at the time considered suspicious. Some historians theorized it was suicide. Others thought it might have been arson, but everyone agreed on one thing: William Morrison had never recovered from losing his wife. Robert felt sick. He carefully resealed the letter and placed it in his locker, unsure what to do with it. The next night, there were 3 more letters, different addresses on Willow Creek Road, all in that same handwriting. Robert opened them all. Each one was from William to Elizabeth, each one growing more desperate, more unhinged. The dates progressed through 1847 and into 1848, the letters sent after Elizabeth's death, letters William must have written knowing she'd never read them. The final letter Robert opened was dated March 3rd, 1849, just days before the fire that killed William. My dearest Elizabeth, I can hear you now. In the walls, in the wind, you're calling me, and I'm ready to answer. The children hear you too. We're coming, my love. We're all coming. Tonight we'll be together again on Willow Creek Road, forever. Your devoted William. Robert dropped the letter. His hands were shaking. This was impossible. These letters were over 170 years old, but the paper wasn't yellowed, and the ink wasn't faded. They looked like they'd been written yesterday. He decided to stop opening them. He'd just let them go into the dead letter pile and disappear like they always did. But the letters kept coming. Every night, at least one, sometimes 5 or 6, always to Willow Creek Road, always in William's handwriting. Then, 3 weeks ago, something changed. Robert was sorting the overnight mail when he saw a letter that made his heart stop. Same handwriting, but this time it wasn't addressed to Willow Creek Road. It was addressed to his home, to Robert personally. With trembling hands, he opened it. Dear Robert, thank you for reading our letters. Elizabeth knows someone is listening now. She's less agitated. But Robert, you must stop. These letters are not for the living. They exist in the space between, where memory becomes reality, where the dead speak to the dead. By reading them, you've opened a door, and Elizabeth wants to come through. Burn this letter. Burn all the letters you've kept. Do it tonight, or she'll find you to you. A concerned friend. Robert's mouth dried. Letters he'd kept? He'd only taken the ones he'd opened, stored them in his locker for what? Evidence? Morbid curiosity? He grabbed his keys and opened his locker. The 7 letters he'd saved were there, neatly stacked. But there was a 7th letter he'd never seen before. No envelope, just a folded piece of paper. He unfolded it. In completely different handwriting, shaky, childlike, was a single sentence. William never understood. I don't want to rest. I want to live. Robert burned the letters that night in a metal trash can behind the facility. All of them. He watched the paper curl and blacken, the elegant script disappearing in flames.
Story 4 comes from Diana, a mail carrier who worked the experimental night delivery route in Phoenix, Arizona. In 2018, the Postal Service tested overnight delivery in select cities, trying to ease daytime traffic congestion and offer premium services.
Diana volunteered for the night shift because it paid better and because she genuinely enjoyed the peace of empty streets. Her route covered a sprawling suburban area, about 150 stops, mostly residential. She'd leave the distribution center at 11 p.m. and typically finish by 5 a.m. The first few months were perfect. Cool night air, no traffic, no angry customers, just Diana, her truck, and the steady rhythm of delivery. Then she started noticing House 4237. It was a ranch-style home on a cul-de-sac, set back from the street with an overgrown yard. It always had mail, every single night, multiple pieces, magazines, letters, packages. Someone who lived there was very popular or did a lot of online shopping. But Diana never saw any signs of life. No lights ever on, no car in the driveway. The grass grew taller every week, the mailbox overflowed, and packages piled up on the porch. After 2 weeks of this, Diana did what carriers are supposed to do. She reported it. Possible vacant property, mail piling up, potential safety hazard. Her supervisor checked the records. The house was registered to Sarah Hendricks. Account was current, no vacation hold requested, no forwarding address on file. Everything seemed normal. Maybe she works nights too, the supervisor suggested, or she's elderly and doesn't go out. Just keep delivering. So Diana did, but it bothered her. The pile of packages on the porch grew to over 30 boxes. The mailbox could barely close, and still, every night, more mail. One night, Diana decided to do something she'd never done before. She parked her truck and walked up to the front door. She told herself she was just checking on a customer, making sure everything was okay. The porch creaked under her feet. Some of the packages had been there so long they were sun-faded and weathered. She knocked on the door. "Hello, Miss Hendricks? Postal Service, just checking if you're all right." No answer. She tried the doorbell. It didn't work. Then she noticed the smell, faint but distinct. Something rotting. Diana immediately stepped back and called her supervisor. The supervisor called the police. When the police arrived, they broke down the door, and what they found inside was a scene Diana will never forget. Sarah Hendricks was there. She'd been dead for approximately 3 months, sitting in a recliner in her living room, the TV still on, tuned to static. Natural causes, the coroner determined later. A heart attack, probably instant, no pain. But here's what made no sense. The mail, all of it, every single piece Diana had delivered was still outside. Inside the house, there was no mail at all. No piles, no opened letters, nothing. Yet Diana had been delivering to that address every night for 3 months. She had records, scanning confirmations, everything. The system showed successful deliveries. The police investigation revealed something even stranger. Sarah Hendricks had no living relatives, no friends who checked on her, no subscriptions, no online shopping accounts. According to her financial records, she'd barely used the internet. So who was sending all that mail? Diana and her supervisor went through the packages and letters. No return addresses. The packages were all empty, just sealed boxes with printed labels. The letters were blank papers in sealed envelopes. Every single piece of mail, dozens and dozens of items, was completely empty. The Postal Service investigated. They traced the package labels and letter barcodes. All of them had been generated, but there was no record of who generated them or where they were sent from. They just appeared in the system, as if by ghost. Diana requested a route change. She got it, but her replacement reported the same thing. Mail still came to 4237 every single night. Always empty packages, always blank letters.
The house was eventually sold at auction, and the new owners moved in. The mail stopped immediately. Diana doesn't work nights anymore. She's back on a day route, and she prefers it that way. But she's learned something that most people never think about. The postal system is a network that connects everyone, living and dead. It's a web of addresses and names, packages and letters, messages sent into the void. And sometimes the void sends something back. She's also learned to pay attention when something feels wrong. Empty packages aren't always empty. Sometimes they carry something else, a message, a warning, a connection to something we don't understand. Now, when she delivers mail, she looks at every house a little more carefully. She wonders about the people inside, and she wonders about the ones who aren't there anymore, the ones who might still be waiting for a letter that will never come.
These 4 stories remind us that the night shift workers in our postal system see things most of us never imagine. They're the unseen guardians, working while we sleep, processing our letters, delivering our packages, keeping the connection between us alive. But they're also witnesses to the strange, the unexplained, the terrifying. They hear the sounds in empty buildings. They find the packages that shouldn't exist. They deliver to addresses that aren't on any map. Marcus, Jennifer, Robert, and Diana, they all continue their work. They've learned to trust their instincts, to listen when something feels wrong, to act when someone needs help. They carry knives that cut faster, flashlights that shine brighter, and the knowledge that the real monsters are sometimes human and sometimes something else entirely. So the next time you drop a letter in a mailbox or receive a package at your door, think about the journey it took. Think about the people who handled it in the darkness, who made sure it reached you safely. And maybe, just maybe, be grateful you don't work the night shift. This has been Mr. Shadows, and these have been your true horror stories from the night shift. If these tales have sent chills down your spine, if you're looking over your shoulder right now, then you know exactly why you need to subscribe to Mr. Shadows Stories. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and join our community of horror enthusiasts, because every week I bring you more terrifying true stories from the darkness. The security guards who see things they can't explain, the hospital workers who encounter the unexplainable, the people who work while you sleep, witnessing the nightmares that most never see. Drop a comment below telling me which story disturbed you the most. Share your own night shift experiences if you dare. And remember, the shadows are always watching, and Mr. Shadows is always listening. Until next time, stay safe in the darkness, and always, always trust your instincts.